Today, I want to talk to you about positioning yourself to get the job offer because, well, that's what I do best. But I really think it's important to understand that every job interview is somewhat structured like a corporate sales presentation or even a board meeting. You might be thinking, what are you talking about, Don? Well, fundamentally, they're the same. For example, if you've ever studied the art of selling, it kind of goes like this. The first thing you need to do is build rapport with your customer or your client. Identify their needs, address their needs, probe for any type of objections, overcome those objections, and then you finally close the sale. Well, the same is true for a job interview. To properly position yourself in the interview, you have to engage the interviewer so that you can uncover their needs and show them how and why that you're a solution to their problems. And the first thing that you need to do in this process is to build rapport and become familiar with the company that you're interviewing with, simply by understanding their corporate vision, their history, their culture, their values, or maybe even how they measure success. All of that creates a foundation for building a strong rapport with your interviewer. So in other words, the more you know about them, the greater your chances are for making a stronger connection, a stronger bond with them. Now, secondly, it's important for you to know your resume, your career history, and be able to tell your story. And doing this is going to establish your credibility. You should be able to verbalize, where you've been, and all the jobs that you've had, how you got there, and what you want to be doing down the road. All of those are very important. So to get comfortable with elaborating on all of your achievements, one of the best things that you can do is to role play with someone. Sit down with a friend and, have them ask you questions as if you were in an actual interview. And this will get you comfortable verbalizing and talking about all of your accomplishments and your achievements. Or you could just, if you don't have a friend like me, you can just get a camera and just, pretend that you have a friend. Next thing I want you to do is practice until you're comfortable answering specific questions regarding why you left your last job and why you're interested in working, at this company, wherever that may be. Now, you should be able to show a smooth transition, from, one leg of your career to the next. If you were kind of moving around, and usually when you're moving around and you're moving up and you're going, maybe from one responsibility to the next. So you want to show a smooth transition from each job, and that should reflect sound judgment and, continuous career progression. It's always best if you can show that your career is going up instead of, sideways. That way, it just looks better in the interview. The third thing, and probably the most important step, is you want to ask good questions. When you ask the right questions, that sends a message loud and clear to your interviewer that you are serious about this job. And the best questions to ask are the ones that will challenge that interviewer or the employer and that will help you decide if this is the place that you want to be. Those are the two biggest reasons. Those are the two types of questions that you want to ask, and that's the type of answer that you want to get back. Don't just Google questions to ask employers and then hit your interviewer up with a barrage of internet questions you found. They're probably going to kick you out the door. Put some serious thought into them and ask them about their culture, the first year accountabilities for the position. Or one of my favorites, if you were to hire me today, how will you know in a year's time that, I was the right fit? I love that question, because this question, it kind of forces them to visualize you in the role. And if they have any concerns, they're just going to bring them up on the spot, and that'll give you an opportunity to address what any of their concerns are while you're there. You see, each question you ask, it reveals what your focus is to the interviewer. The questions you ask and those that you don't ask signal your motivations, your experience, your agenda, ethics, values, work habits, strengths, weaknesses, all by the questions that you ask and that you don't ask. So consider carefully what you wish to say about yourself when you're composing questions that you plan to ask in a job interview. Now, ideally, your questions, they should be open-ended. To encourage and stimulate conversation, you want an open-ended question. This allows you to develop, a chemistry and connect with the interviewer, which builds rapport, which is the key to getting to the next step of the process and, ultimately getting the offer. But you see, asking the right questions accomplishes two things. First, they should express, your desire to understand what the company wants to achieve. And second, They should indicate your desire to help them reach those objectives. I mean, another example of a good probing question would kind of go like this. You might say, what could I do in my first year as your sales manager that would exceed your expectations and meet our corporate objectives? I mean, if you think about it, that's a really powerful question. And it almost sounds like, the guy is already working there when he says, our objectives. I mean, that's actually a little NLP technique. I mean, I don't quite know the technical term for it, but it's a gentle and subliminal suggestion that says, I already work there and that I'm on board with everything you're doing, and getting hired, it's just a mere detail, but I'm ready to roll up my sleeves and get to work. And notice that it's not a me type oriented question. I mean, me questions, they'll get you into trouble if you ask them at the wrong time. I mean, it doesn't say, what's in it for me if I meet my objectives? I mean, do you see the difference? Just remember, it's not about what's in it for you. It's about what's in it for them. I mean, they're paying the check. They're writing your check. Now, the next step of the interview, and probably the most difficult, is the trial close. I mean, this will usually uncover any concerns or objections that, haven't come up yet. And many individuals, many job seekers at this point, they fail because they're afraid to ask that defining question. What concerns do you have, about my, ability to be an effective member of your team, or, whatever kind of question you have there at the end. But obviously this question, puts you in somewhat of a vulnerable position. But if you don't address it, if you don't ask it, you have no way of knowing if, they have any objections about you, or even where you stand with the interviewer. An objection in the interviewer's mind it's kind of like a brick wall that you can't get through. So therefore, you must get the interviewer to disclose any concerns or objections that she may have, regarding your qualifications or your candidacy. And once that you get all the objections have been addressed and the interviewer is satisfied, then you can move into the final step by, asking for the job. And you can do this by saying, so what is our next step? Or are there any members of your team that, you would like me to meet with? Implying, before we go to the next step. All of those questions seem simple, and you'd be surprised at how many people fail to close the interviewer, which, results in an awkward ending to what, could have been a very, successful and prosperous meeting. But you see, the closing question is not only direct, but it requires a response that establishes some momentum that you need to pull you through the whole interview process. Any response from the interview other than, we would like to meet, we would like you to meet the rest of the team, or, we would like to take things to the next step. Anything other than that could be an indication that they have some concerns, and they're just maybe not comfortable with you yet. So if you sense that they still have concerns, don't be afraid to ask for that clarification. And remember, you got nothing to lose. You got everything to gain. And persistence, it never lost an opportunity. But in the end, interviewing, it's an art. It really is. And, the best candidates, they don't always get hired. I didn't always get hired either. But if you hone your skills, you do your homework, and implement these interview strategies, you will totally increase your odds of getting the offer. So remember, an interview, it's a lot like a sales presentation or board meeting that involves trying to influence others to achieve a certain outcome. It's as simple as that. But preparation is critical, and it involves both researching the company, understanding their needs, and showing that you are a solution to their problems. And that's really about it. And when you do this, and when you master this, you'll go so much farther in the process, and you'll enjoy the journey. Even when you don't get the job, you'll still be able to pat yourself on the back for a job well done, because you'll have known that you really put your best foot forward throughout the interview process. You gave your best, you answered all the questions, you asked the right questions, you showed them that you could be a solution, but maybe you guys just didn't make that connection. Maybe it was a corporate culture difference. Maybe you didn't have the experience they were looking for, but whatever, if you do all the things right, you're going to feel good about yourself in the end. And in the end, you're probably, if you don't get the job, you're probably just going to be thinking, you know what, they're probably right. I'm not the right person for this. Or They might be thinking, or you might be saying, you know what, I am the right person for this. I just haven't proved it yet. I'm going to go back and I'm going to show them that I'm the right person. And, sometimes this takes a little bit of back and forth. But when you do these things right, you're just going to get so much closer to getting the job offer. And that, my friend, is all I have for you today. But to help you go a little bit farther in the process, to help you tweak some of your answers, hang on a second here. I want you to head on over to jobinterviewtools.com/top10. Put in your name and email address. Tell me where to send this, and I will send you my list of the top 10 most common interview questions that go into more detail about, how to answer weakness questions, accomplishments, tell me about yourself, why do you want to work here? And it has probably about 12 or 13 questions that you might want to ask your interviewer. So this is a nice little book. It's free. You can get it from jobinterviewtools.com/top10. My gift to you just for being here with me today. And so get this book. It's going to enlighten you. It's going to give you that edge on what interviewers are looking for. And it's going to help you structure your answers a little bit better. And that, my friend, is all I have for you today. If you find my channel helpful, please subscribe. You'll get notifications every time I release a new video. And if you like this video, you found it helpful, please give it a thumbs up. I would very much appreciate it. It helps me understand the types of content that you want. And that way I can create more of it for you. So I wish you the very best on your next interview, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye now.